go to Quranly.app inshallah. The app tracks verses, pages and time spent reading, and the verses to pages function takes you from reading a few verses a day to a few pages a day. This project is for the real enthusiasts. If there's enough of us out there, this will become the future of Quran apps. And support the project if you can, inshallah. May Allah bless all of you. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you guys doing? Now, many of you will be aware of the back and forth that I've had with one Douglas Murray. Now, for you who don't know, this man is a British journalist, but he has been given a platform by the likes of the BBC, The Spectator. He has been part of the neoconservative movement in Britain and in the West, and has been a voice against, I would say, Islam and Muslims for some time, a critic of Islam and Muslims for some time. In fact, let me read something to you to give you a flavor of what this man is all about. He says, conditions for Muslims in Europe must be made harder across the board. He says, Europe must look like a less attractive proposition. From long before we were first attacked, it should have been made plain that people who come into Europe are here under our rules and not theirs. He says, where a mosque has become a center of hate, it should be closed and pulled down. If that means that some Muslims don't have a mosque to go to, then they'll have to realize that they aren't owed one. Now, the first part of that sentence, that conditions for Muslims in Europe must be made harder across the board, it's so anti-Western ideology, so anti-Enlightenment ideology. If we're talking about equality, if we're talking about minority rights, all of these things, it goes against those things. Now, I'm not asking Douglas Murray to become a Muslim. I mean, we invite all of the world to Islam, to the worship of one God, of course, and that it does include Douglas Murray. But what I would, for now at least, like to see is Douglas Murray being self-consistent with his own principles, because this is a man who I'm going to have to say as it is nothing but a hypocrite. He is a hypocrite. He makes himself out to be some kind of a bastion for freedom of speech and expression, but he's a co-founder of an organization called the Henry Jackson Organization. He's the co-founder of an organization that produces reports on a yearly basis, and these reports, in fact, are an attempt to account organizations which have Muslim speakers in universities. And he states, or not him, but the report states, for example, extremist hate preachers have near unfettered access to students. And by that, of course, he means, with his understanding of extremism, anything that goes against Western ideological or Enlightenment values. So you see here, this is really, it's enraging. It's enraging how these individuals that speak about freedom of speech are attempting to do actions, words, or have words and actions, produce reports which have the net effect and entailment of curtailing freedom of speech for a minority group, which is the Muslims. He, in fact, or not him, but the report states that failure by university to apply, that there's been a failure by university to apply prevent duties. Now, for those who don't know and maybe live abroad, prevent is the government's counter-terrorism strategy. So here we have a situation where the Henry Jackson Society, which is co-founded by Douglas Murray, is producing these reports. And these reports aim to vilify, label, or otherwise cancel. Yes, cancel Muslim speakers, traditionalist Orthodox speakers, from speaking in universities because they're afraid that they have, quote, unfettered access to students. Students, we're talking about what age? 18 to 21, adult students. So in this situation here, clearly Murray and co are using the guise of terrorism to vilify a community and to inhibit freedom of speech. Don't talk to me about freedom of speech. What kind of censoring is this? You coward. You are a coward. And this is, do you know why it's clear to me that you are a coward and that you are afraid of public engagement and debate? Because when it came to me challenging you on Twitter for a discussion, when I came to challenge you on Twitter for a discussion or debate, let's be straightforward with you because we don't see eye to eye, what did you say? You made the excuses, you call me anti-Semitic, you call me all these words because I'm anti-Zionist, because I am pro-Palestinian, unashamedly so. You will never find a statement of mine in the whole public record which amounts to anti-Semitism. But you coward, even if I was a fully fledged anti-Semite and hated Jews, which we believe in Islam is not possible to do, or you shouldn't do, because the Prophet himself married a Jew, Safiya bint Huyay. You didn't know that, did you? And he condemned anti-Semitism, which I have videos on my channel doing the same thing. But if this is your excuse, why are you discussing with Anjem Chowdhury? Let's take a picture. Let's take a look at a picture of you discussing with Anjem Chowdhury. Anjem Chowdhury is widely recognized in the Muslim community as someone who belongs to the radical fringes. Someone who has not condemned ISIS, not condemned Al-Qaeda, not condemned these groups, and in many ways is sympathetic to those groups. And you have had a discussion with him, but with me, what now? You're getting cold feet, you're getting a bit scared. What is your excuse? That I'm not qualified? I think you'll find that I'm much more qualified on these topics than you are, especially Islam. What are your qualifications in Islam? What are your qualifications in Islam? What is your training in Islam? What background? You've written 2 books, to my knowledge, about Islam, but what is your qualification to speak about such a topic like theology? Huh? Tell me now. You come to me humbly, as a student. That's the only relationship you can have with me when it comes to the religion of Islam. You come to me humbly, cross-legged, as a student in front of me, and I will tell you about Islam, the rulings, the book that I've memorized, the language that I know, the years that I've spent in the Islamic seminary, and the degrees that I've acquired. You're not in my league on these issues. Don't even pretend to be. And how dare you try and attack the Quran and say the book, the measly, pathetic little book that you have produced. Apparently, he says it's more bought than the Quran. It's people are buying it more than the Quran. Are you that mentally slow? Do you think people buy the Quran on Amazon? This is the tweet he put up. You can check it on the Twitter. This guy, he thinks that his book is being read by Muslims or by other people as much and or maybe the same amount as the Quran. Are you a fool? Are you literally a fool? This book is one of the most memorized, no, it is the most memorized book in the world. Children memorize it. And you're talking about your measly little book that you put on Amazon. Anyway, let's move on to something else. Let's move on to what you actually say about Islam. Let me expose your ignorance further. Because it's not just Islam and theology that you have a inhibition, you have a weakness in, but you have an inhibition and you have a weakness when it relates to the humanities. In your book, The Strange Death of Europe, you refer to as conjuring a careful new version of history, which flies in the face of all historical scholarship, practically all historical scholarship. We're not saying that the whole time in Spain was good, you had the Al-Muwahhidun and so on, but to try and imply that there was intolerance throughout the whole time period when Islam was in Spain is foolishness and ahistorical understanding on anyone's understanding. And you make blunders, historical blunders. You say Europe was never a continent of Islam. What are you talking about? We have you have Spain as the example. You have Sicily as another example. And you have other places which the Ottoman Empire had control over as other examples as well. Are you literally that foolish? Are you literally that foolish? Why are you speaking about things which you have no idea about? On this point, let's take a look at what you've said about Islam.
Let's say Islam is a very, very complex thing. And the best way I can do this in the very short time I have is say you have 3 Islams. Islam 1, 2 and 3. Islam 1, the Quran and the life of Mohammed and the Hadith. Islam 2, the tradition of the Sharia. Islam 3, what Muslims do now. The first of those things, Islam, the Quran and so on, is bad. It is bad. There is a lot of violence in it. And what's worse, the peaceful verses are superseded by the violent verses. The violent verses also, sadly, are more numerous in number. Then you've got the life of Muhammad. Again, a bad man. A very bad man, it has to be said. Not a great role model, if you look at it. It takes child brides, abuses a small girl, multiple wives, himself a warrior, himself a war criminal, himself beheads Jews. This, I would have thought, would be a signal of not great peacefulness.
So he makes a series of, as you saw with that clip here, this man makes a series of claims about Islam, and this is the video he sent me, by the way, on Twitter. He said, this is where I speak about Islam, as if to showboat, to grandstand, to show me something I didn't know. And this is what you have to present. Blunder after blunder after blunder. Let's go over each one of them. He said the Quran is bad. That's an assertion, and it's an aesthetic value judgment, and it's not based on evidence. So I will not even dignify that with a response. He states, the peaceful verses are superseded by the violent ones. That's not true in its entirety. In fact, that's not true at all. You have verses like chapter 60 verse 8. لا ينهاكم الله أن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم إن الله يحب المقسطين. Chapter 60 verse 8. That Allah does not forbid you to be good with those non-Muslims who have not tried to kill you and not tried to kick you out of your homes, that you be good with them and you be just with them, because Allah, He loves the just. That's not abrogated and it's not superseded by any verse. Is it peaceful? Yes or no? You answer me my questions. Since you're the one making the claims, yeah? You answer my questions now. Because imagine if you're right in front of me. You're talking about my body. He was trying to body shame me. The guy was trying to talk about my body. You're trying to talk about me. And even your followers were saying, actually, I think, anyways, I'm not going to say anything, but you can go and see on Twitter what his followers were saying, what your boyfriend maybe have been saying, and other people. But anyway, the first thing you say is that the verses of the Quran are superseded, the peaceful ones. Yeah? So is this a peaceful verse or not? Chapter 60 verse 8. Answer me the question. What about chapter 4 verse 90? إِلَّا الَّذِينَ يَصِلُونَ وبينكم وبينهم ميثاق أو جاءوكم حصرت صدورهم. Except for the ones that they come to you and there's a peace treaty between you two, or that they've come with peace. This is not abrogated. This verse is not abrogated. وقاتلوا الذين يقاتلونكم ولا تعتدوا إن الله لا يحب المعتدين. Chapter 2 verse 190. Fight those who fight you and do not go across the bounds. Do not transgress the bounds, because Allah does not like those who transgress the bounds. Is that superseded? Is that abrogated? These are my questions. I mean, you tell me when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man qatala mu'ahadan lam yarih ra'ihat al-jannah," that whoever kills a non-combatant non-believer will not smell the fragrance of heaven. Is that been abrogated? My question is, the answer is no. The Prophet told us, which you won't find in Jewish or Judeo-Christian tradition, very clear. If you go to war, do not kill the old person, the woman, the child. مَا كَانَ عَلَيْهَا أَن تُقْتَلْ. He said about a woman, it's not for this woman. He saw a woman dead in the battlefield. It's not for her to be killed. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he reiterated the same commands. So these are just old Orientalist tropes, misconceptions, which unfortunately, because you have been reading Bernard Lewis and Ibn Warraq, who is not a scholar, you mentioned he's a scholar, he's not a scholar. Bernard Lewis is a historian. What's he got to do with theology of Islam? So you don't even know how to quote proper authorities on these points. Yeah? Because you've been reading these people, you don't know how to nuance the discussion. You have become ignorant. You are ignorant. You don't know how to access primary source material. You don't know how to be honest with the sources. And when you try your best, you fail. Look, you've just stated 2 sentences about Islam in the only thing that I see you speaking about the religion directly, and you've already made 2 mistakes. Let's go on though. You say that there are more, basically, the violent verses are more numerous than the peaceful ones. There are 6,236 verses of the Quran. Now, I don't know, have you read the translation of the meanings of the Quran? Because if you have, it's impossible to come to that conclusion. It is impossible to come to that conclusion. Are you telling me of a ratio that the violent verses are more than the non-violent verses in the Quran? Then you maybe have been reading The Art of War, not the Quran. You've been reading another book. This is a foolish statement that no one who has read the Quran, even the translations of the meanings of, would ever make. You're ignorant. How dare you even think that you can debate me, you can speak to me? You're not qualified. You're not even that popular, to be honest. Let's be honest. Who are you anyway? Who are you to try and step up like this? Who are you? With all due respect, and you're coming talking about Islam, you're talking about Muslims need to be treated in this way and that way and the other way, that they are ticking time bombs. That's another quote of his, by the way. They're a demographic ticking time bomb. Well, I'll tell you what, you're an intellectual ticking time bomb, because now you're starting to implode upon yourself. You are starting to implode upon yourself, and you're continuing to do that now. And then you say the life of Muhammad, he was a bad man. Well, another assertion. Did they not teach you in GCSE that is PEE, point, evidence, explanation? Did they not teach you that one? So you stating Muhammad was a bad man. That's an assertion. You weak man. You are a weak man. You are a weak man. Look at you making an error in every statement, that every sentence that you utter towards Islam, about Islam, you're uttering it with erroneous statements, filled with fallacy, and totally, you are an imbecile. You are an imbecile. What kind of debility is this? What kind of intellectual debility, imbecility, pusillanimity is this? I tell you, I think you know and I know, this wouldn't end well if we were standing next to each other and we were having an intellectual discussion. And that's why you scurried along, didn't you? That's the real reason why you scurried along. You put your tail between your legs and you had to run away. You tried to engage me on Twitter, but you wouldn't engage me face to face. And then he says, he abuses a small child or a small girl. Give me the evidence of that. Where's the evidence of abuse? When Aisha herself, who you refer to, Aisha herself, she states that the Prophet, he never hit any of his wives. He was never abusive to any of his wives or his servants. Anas ibn Malik himself said that the Prophet never so much as uttered vocalizations of contempt. And you're talking about abuse. What's the evidence? You're historically impotent. You're incapable, intellectually incapable of producing the goods, the knowledge goods on these matters. And then he says multiple wives. What's the problem with having multiple wives? You've given us a moral reason why having multiple wives is wrong. A warrior. Why is that a bad thing to have a warrior? Prophet. Being a warrior is a good thing. So you're mentioning these things. Warrior. And then he states, he himself beheads the Jews. Okay, I want you to give me one evidence from the seerah, the biography of the Prophet, where he beheads Jewish people because they're Jewish. In fact, if he beheads any Jewish people at all, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ never beheaded a Jew. That never happened. You're a liar. You are a liar. And if you're talking about Banu Qurayza, the 600 Jewish people that were executed because of treachery, and even that treachery was realized by historians in the Western Academy, people like Karen Armstrong, who are in her book, The Short Introduction to Islam, unequivocally and unambiguously details the main reason for such a thing, or for Banu Qurayza being, or not even Banu Qurayza, I should say, the combatants among them was because of treachery, war treachery that happened in the Battle of Khandaq. And if it was a matter of genocide and disposing of Jewish people, then why did the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ do a constitution of Medina? Why did he guarantee the rights of the Jewish people? Why did he not do the same thing with Banu Nadir and Banu Qaynuqa'? Why did he marry a Jew? Why in the Quran, in chapter number 59, verse number 4, it states on this issue of Banu Qurayza, ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ شَاقُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. It gives the reason for why the hostilities took place between some Muslim tribes and some Jewish tribes. That is because they opposed Allah and His Messenger. It's not because ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ يَهُودٌ. That's because they were Jewish. Bro, with all due respect, you don't know what you're talking about. You do not know what you're talking about. Yeah? And so this is the thing. You can be a critic of Islam in your little echo chamber, but you are a coward and you are not courageous as Jordan Peterson said you were, because if you were, and I give credit to Jordan Peterson for having a conversation with me, which was courteous and cordial. If you were, you would at least talk to me. And with whatever energy you come to me with, I'll come to you with that energy. But the energy that you've been coming to the whole Muslim community with, talking to us about ticking time bombs, talking to us about unequal rights for our community, talking to us about religion being a religion of opportunism. Yeah? The religion itself is an opportunistic religion. And other such things. For a man that's unqualified, untrained, or otherwise unaware, you really can't make a case for yourself, can you? So next time you utter the word Islam, or next time you utter the word Muslim from your mouth, or next time you or your institute that you founded, co-founded, produce reports, remember that it's hypocrisy that runs through your veins. Not just blood, but hypocrisy that runs through every artery and every vein in your body. You talk about freedom of speech and cancel culture, but you do to the traditionalist Muslims and Orthodox Muslims what you claim the left has done to you. That's the reality of the situation. That is the reality of the situation. And you do anything but embody either spirit or word of what the liberal theorist said, which is that I disapprove of what you say, but I defend to the death your right to say it. You don't embody that in either spirit or sentiment because you are a coward and you are a hypocrite. And that is the reality of the situation. And for those who want to see bridges being built and, civility and lack of toxicity and so on, I say, as the Arabs say, ahlan wa sahlan. Yeah, we want that as well. The Muslim community does actually want coexistence and harmony. We do. But you can't reasonably ask me or my community to be an accomplice to our own murder. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.